Okay, so now you can see that I've reached the occipital bone of the head and it's formed a natural V. So if you were ever to do a partial head of highlights, this would actually be where you would start, because when all of this is brought down, it covers over what's happening underneath there. It helps to mimic a full head of highlights, and you always want to make sure when you do get to this point that you have your longest layer intact in here. So as before, when we were taking diagonal sections, now we're going to start taking horizontal sections. The horizontal sections give a little bit more impact and cover more ground. So where this is naturally where the hair likes to split, this will give a lot of coverage. And I like to take it and make it one section now and treat it as one section. Your first section down here is going to be a little bit funny and awkward because he's going to be a little V. And again, I like to use my smaller foil because I'm doing a smaller section. I don't have to worry about the large foil pulling down on my section or taking over space-wise. And again, just slowly work my way through the head and paying special attention to where it splits in the crown. Make sure if you do get any lightener on the bottom of your foil that you wipe it off, because if you go to fold it into the regrowth area, that bleach will create a little bleed mark on your section. When you get to the round of the head where the section gets a little bit wider, that's when it becomes very important to use your vertical brush strokes just to make sure that all of those hairs get pushed down onto the foil so that it doesn't look like there's a large amount of regrowth in between where the lightness starts and the old root color. So now we're going to get into the side and top quadrants of your highlights. I like to, if possible, clip this hair out of the way so I don't accidentally pick it up, but don't pull on your foils or anything. It's just to move the hair out of the way. I always like to work with as clean of sections as possible so that I don't accidentally grab other sections. Now, when it comes to determining your side section for up around the hairline here, I like to take it where it naturally starts to split or where the recession line is. That's going to make it the most natural. On a mannequin head, they have a little bit of a funny recession, but I try and take it right about where it starts to curve. Horizontal section. So on a mannequin head, they have a little bit of a funny hairline, but I try and take it right where it splits. Horizontal section. Clip that guy away. When you're doing your sections around the hairline, you want to make sure that you are walking up the hairline. You don't want to leave any of the hairline out, because the first thing that a female or somebody is going to do once they have their highlights done, they're going to go in the mirror, they're going to pull it back, and they're going to check it. If there is a shadow around their hairline, they're going to feel like they didn't just have their highlights done. So it's very, very important that you make sure that you incorporate the entire hairline. If you have these little baby hairs that stick out, that's totally fine. Don't try and fit those into a foil, because that's just going to make your life very difficult. You can push them off to the side, but try and get as much in as possible. I do let the client know if they do have a lot of baby hairs around the hairline that I will try my best to try and get it into the foil, but that sometimes they just have to stay out because we don't want to cause further damage to the hair. So put sure the angle. And my first section is going to be so I can really make sure that I get the dark patch that goes right down here by the ear where it meets the jaw. This is the number one place that most people will tell you that they feel dark, so you do want to make sure that you pay extra careful attention to it to make sure that it gets into a foil. Now, obviously on a mannequin head, this section is going to be a little bit bigger, but when you're working on a client, this is quite a fine and delicate area, so your section will be very small and you'll want to do more of a baby light weave. Again, just like in the back, you don't want there to be a big line or a chunk right at the hairline. So starting with a small baby weave or baby light will help to make sure that doesn't happen and it looks as natural as possible. It's important when you are working around the hairline and at such a delicate area that you are folding your foils to the size of the section. You don't want to have a small section like that and then your foil is folded to here, because then you're not going to be able to see the true size of your section while you're trying to make sure you're covering that entire hairline. And you want to take these at a slight diagonal again. And every time I get more and more of the hairline in my foil. Again, you want to make sure that you're really paying attention to the hairline and your application, because this is going to be one of the main spots that your client is going to see. They don't necessarily see what's going on in the back, but they will definitely be able to see what's going on at their hairline, especially if there's someone who wears their hair back in a ponytail quite a bit. But I promise you, the first thing anyone's going to do after having their highlights done is go into the washroom, pull their hair off their face, and check like that. Sometimes too, around the hairline, I like to incorporate baby lights and slices. This gives a very beautiful natural end result, but it also covers a lot of area, so they really get that brightness around their face. Now this is my final section where I have the entire hairline covered. So by making sure that you do as many foils as possible to incorporate the entire hairline is really what's going to make it look the most natural. You don't want to just take the entire hairline in one section and try and weave it, because then that could result in the foil not getting as close to the regrowth as you would like, and then there could be dark patches. Now that I have my hairline covered, I'll just keep on working at a diagonal back. And around the hairline and the sides, I like to stick to my smaller foils. Again, this is usually quite a small, delicate area that you're working in. And I don't want my larger foils to pull out my section or fall down, so that creates any bleed marks. And if you follow the head shape properly up by taking diagonal sections, your last section that you'll end up will actually look like a small triangle. And that will be just a small weave. Once you are finished with that section, make sure that you hold the section top with your hand, and then gently, without pulling or being too aggressive, flip these out of the way of your client's face. It can really seem like they're wearing blinders if you don't help to open them up for them, and they won't be able to see, and it's kind of uncomfortable.